What's your status on the apparatus, Puncho, and DK? Today we're going to be talking about when churches become a brand.
For 8 years. Before the pandemic, she was there every Sunday without fail. She volunteered. She gave generously. The community felt like family. But now, watching the service on her laptop, something felt different. The production was still slick. Message was still positive. The pastor was still charismatic. But divorced from the crowd.
I just see that clip there with Joel Osteen in like a little studio or some like an apartment or office building. That's interesting. That's what they did during the COVID. Okay, let's go.
From the lights and the music and the energy of thousands of people around her, she realized something unsettling. She wasn't learning anything. She hadn't learned anything in years. The sermons were the same. The messages were interchangeable. God has a plan for your life. Better days are ahead. Don't give up on your dreams. It was motivational content masquerading as spiritual teaching. That's when Jennifer did something that would change everything. She started reading theology books. Real theology, not self-help with Bible verses. She started listening to podcasts that asked difficult questions about faith and doubt. She started attending a small liturgical church where the congregation was 60 people and they read ancient prayers. And she realized what she'd been missing, depth.
You know, I know we're going to press with this, but that's very interesting because we're seeing a surge in Catholicism and orthodoxy, in church orthodoxy attendance. So that's spot on, you know?
Substance, theological weight. Jennifer's story repeated millions of times across America. But the crisis was about to get much worse because it wasn't just casual attendees leaving. It was the committed members, the volunteers, the tithers, the people who made the entire operation possible. The financial engine of megachurches wasn't just slowing down, it was collapsing. By 2023, the data painted a devastating picture. Megachurch attendance had dropped by an average of 30 to 40% from pre-pandemic levels. But these weren't small decreases. These were extinction-level drops for institutions built entirely on growth.
Okay, we want to pause it there, or you want to jump to our first up?
Yeah, we can pause it there. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when I think about a lot of the mega churches, right? One thing that I see is that a lot of the churches were built around the pastor's personality, right? So you look at Joel Osteen. If you really don't know, you just call it Joel Osteen's church. You might not call it Lakewood. You think about T.D. Jakes. Just T.D. Jakes' church. Not the Potter House. You know what I mean?
Well, isn't the pastor critical though? In the personality of the church, isn't he the shepherd?
Yeah, but the thing is that like Paul say, right? Paul says that one plants, another one waters, but God gives the increase, right? So it's never about the individual. You know what I mean? Like everybody has a different role, and the church should take on. When I'm saying the church, this time I'm talking about as a building. The church should take on the personality of Christ, not of who's leading them. I would think. I mean, that's what I'm trying to see. Like if I'm going, like, because I've been to some mega churches, not as big as Joel Osteen's one, but I watch a lot of other ones where, I mean, the pastor is a huge person and a big personality, but it's not like when I look at the church, I don't be like, man, I just see him. When I see the church, like I see the ministry going on. I see the.
Is there a sense of transition of legacy? Yeah, that's a tough one because that's what happened with Lakewood. Joel Osteen's dad. I used to like listening to his dad preach. He passed away, then Joel took over, and they just went gangbusters. That place, they took over the Houston Center, I think, something like that.
The Compact Center, yeah.
The Compact Center, yeah, that thing, and they just got really, really big. I didn't track them as much after that. But you even see it in some local congregations, where you'll see the pastor is the personality behind the church, and sometimes they can't find a predecessor. Even the church I was attending a church in a foreign country, of all places, and I think that the original pastor ended up transitioning it to his son. That happens so often. So it is something to think about. Is that what we want to have biblically? But it also kind of brings it to our question. Um, can a church be big and still be biblical? Why or why not? And as the panel that we have here, how's it going? All of our illustrious panelists here. When you guys hear that question, and we start with DK, can a church be big and still be biblical? And why or why not?
For me, yes, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, a church size doesn't determine, if it can be biblical. At least in my eyes, I've seen. There's a church where we used to live at in Leesburg. I think it's called like Cornerstone.
Over by me, and when I was in the Virginia area.
Yeah, Cornerstone Chapel or something like that. But I really, I don't even. The crazy part, I can't even think of the pastor's name. But I mean, every time I watch them, like I watch them a lot of times, like for different studies. Everything is just, verse by verse. You know what I mean? Is no fluff, just verse by verse teaching. And for me personally, that's the kind of like preaching and teaching that I like. You know what I mean? Is verse by. I mean, I'm not saying I like all preaching, but I really get a lot out of verse by verse teaching.
Yeah, I remember we did a couple of sessions like that, and there is a lot. That's what my pastor does actually over in Centerville, Virginia. There was a period where he was just going through Mark. I'm like, we still in Mark? It's been like 4 months.
Yeah. But
the cool thing is, I was still learning so much. Every verse in the Bible is just so compact with spiritual power, and just seeing that from different people, different angles. You can really stay within just one chapter for a long period of time. But anyway, I digress. That same question, we'll throw it to Corey, Steele, and IT. If you guys want to comment, just jump in. Can a church be big and still be biblical? Why or why not?
I think it can be both. It depends on whether the Holy Spirit is moving through that body, through that congregation. You can have a small church and there's the presence of God is not there at all. And you can have a large church and it's all throughout, the entire congregation. So I don't think it's the size of the church, but when a church becomes too big, it may kind of start to lose its focus, because it's just, you're trying to just lead too many people, maybe.
Yeah. It can get big.
You can't be, because really the pastor is an essential, he's the quarterback. If you want to look at it that way, right? You can still have a football team, but without a quarterback, who's leading?
Yeah.
So I think it can be either way.
Okay. So Corey and DK said you can be big and still be a good church. I'm talking about 5,000 people big. What do you say, Steele and IT, if you guys want to jump in there? And of course, if you guys are on the internet, feel free, drop the question or drop a response. We'll read those live. Steele, IT, anything? Okay, so
I got a question though. So we're talking about mega churches. What defines a mega church? Like,
I think once you get around 3,000 people, let me look it up. Yes, good question.
What's the threshold? It's like, okay, at this point, you're no longer like a small community church, because you could be a large church in a large city, right? And then that may just be normal, right? But if you're a large church in a small town, then that's considered mega. Like, what's the definition of a mega church?
Well, according to AI, a mega church is defined as a Protestant church that has an average weekly attendance of at least 2,000 people. This definition is widely accepted and used by various research organizations. Large membership, evangelical focus, so more Protestant, diverse activities, from educational, social activities, community service, Bible studies, all the bells and whistles. And you can't forget about the coffee lounges in the churches too. Right. So it looks like we're at that 2,000 person a capacity at a minimum, and then it goes from there, And what did Joel Osteen have? It was like how many?
Well, the compact center seated 16,000, and they would
16,000. Wow.
There wouldn't be a seat left. And I think sometimes
this is every Sunday.
This is every Sunday, yeah. And sometimes they would do more than one one service. So
Wow. That is amazing. I'm not even gonna lie. For myself, can a church be big and still be led by God? I think it gets a little difficult. Not many churches do this well. I remember when I was kind of working with a church that was kind of a startup, and the church was really trying to get its wheels underneath them to start moving and getting the media together, getting the audio, the visual together, the kind of stuff that makes you look good on TV, even though you got only 20 people there. I'm like, and I remember talking to the pastor from something the Holy Spirit kind of deposited in me. It's like the Holy Spirit was really enjoying these moments with the small congregation, because it wasn't something that was broadcast overall. He really enjoyed the small, intimate, introverted setting of it. We're not set to a specific time frame where we can only have, your 3 praise songs, your 30-minute or 1-hour sermon, your 2 praise songs, and it's very formulatic. When you just felt, at least what I sensed, just felt a sense of enjoying something that was new. That being the case, can these big churches? I remember going to a big church, and I fell deep within the cracks. Whether it was being single and being an older gentleman, so I fell in the crack there. Being a man with a child, single father, fell in another crack there, and it was very difficult to kind of get my feet up under me, because most churches don't always gravitate towards single men that are untethered, from a family. As far as a wife, it always comes with a little bit of suspicion. So I noticed a lot more issues than other people did. So I think, long story short, is bigger churches can do it, but I haven't really been a part or encountered a lot that could do it well. They always push you to the small group because they know your local pastor isn't going to feed you. Now, my current church, they have about 2,000 people or so, but my local pastor, to the best of his ability, he's engaged in our lives. And I really appreciate that. He did marriage counseling for us. He's doing outreach with my son and helping facilitate things for him. And it's more hands-on, but it's just not common, in my opinion. And I think that people can easily go to church and come home and never be engaged in some of these big churches. And that is not what we're here for as a congregation,